Welcome, everybody, to Sports Politicans Agree to Disagree. Thank you for joining us. Uh, Welcome back. We've been gone for a week or two, so we're glad to be back. Glad to have everybody who's watching, going to watch, thinking about watching in the future. I want to go quick around the table. Turner, go ahead and introduce yourself.
And John Turner, Chesapeake, Virginia, by way of Newport News. You can follow me on my personal Twitter, Everybody Loves John, or the group Twitter at Sports Politicking.
P.
Perfect Purvis, Texas born and raised, living in Kouvola, Finland right now. Y'all can follow me on any type of social media at Perfect Purvis.
I'm not gonna lie. We've been doing this for a while, and I still don't know how you spell Kouvola, Finland. I know how to spell Finland. I can't spell that.
It's a weird word, I tell you that.
It's a different language.
Yeah.
And I'm Alan Hinton, living in Wilmington from Chesapeake, Virginia. Find me on Twitter, aflash79, but also catch us on our Twitter, Sports Politicking. Facebook is Sports Politicking Presents Agree to Disagree. And I don't think we have an Instagram. YouTube is Sports Politicking as well. We may talk about Instagram later, but that's down the road. Turner's going to start us off. We're going to talk about Josh Norman.
All right. So everybody knows Josh Norman was a Carolina Panther last year, and he excelled. He was a late bloomer. He had been in that system with that organization for a few years. Last year, he had a favorable contract year. He had his best year in the contract year, went to the Redskins. Redskins played the Steelers in the first game, the first Monday night game of the season. And, people were getting on him because he didn't shadow Antonio Brown. And Breeland was covering Brown, and let's be clear, Breeland got roasted by Brown. But I mean, again, it happens. Brown is the best wide receiver in football. You would obviously like for Breeland to hold his ground better, but whatever. People were more upset, not about Breeland getting torched, but about the fact that Josh Norman didn't cover him. And if the logic goes, well, he's paid all of this money. Why didn't he shadow the Brown as the best wide receiver? And then I countered on Facebook and a few of the groups I'm in. Well, was Antonio Brown scared for not staying on the same side as Josh Norman? Why does it always have to be that the cornerback is scared of the wide receiver? Why can't it be the other way around? And the point of me saying that was the people who say that Josh Norman should have followed Brown, I don't really feel like they watched a lot of Panthers games last year. Josh Norman was generally on, if you have your back to the quarterback, on the right side of the defense. So he was at the left cornerback spot. And I feel like that is the best side for him. I think casual fans or people who just want to be ignorant don't know how difficult it is actually switching sides of the field. They think, oh, he's a cornerback, he should be able to do it. But cornerbacks have comfort zones, and really shadowing is not an easy thing to do. The only cornerback who really shadows on a somewhat consistent basis is Patrick Peterson, and Peterson has been overrated up until last year. Last year, he was pretty much dominant. He had a great year last year. I absolutely give him credit for that. But I feel like Josh Norman is getting a bad rap because he didn't shadow Brown. He covered Dez. I believe he only allowed 1 of 3 completions to Dez. I believe he actually caused an incomplete pass to force a fumble. And I just feel like people want people to be things that they're not just because they get paid money. Josh wasn't a big man guy in Carolina last year. He didn't really switch sides of the field a lot. And I feel like people who don't understand the nuances of football want him to be something that he's not. As of right now, through 2 games, he's the best cornerback in football. The small sample size applies to it, certainly. But if I'm a Redskin, I'm not calling them the Redskins. If I'm a fan of that team and I'm a fan of Josh Norman, I'm absolutely thrilled with the way that he's been playing thus far. Pro Football Focus had an article on him. He has a 91 grade right now, which is the highest in football for cornerbacks, higher than his 87 grade last year. I certainly have my feelings about how Pro Football Focus has changed since, they've been picked up by the NFL, having their stats on NBC. But I feel like they judge the positions that are harder for us as laymen to judge. So I trust their judgment on that. And based on what I've seen when he's played, he's looked good. He's looked really good. And I cannot be mad at the fact that he doesn't shadow, because most cornerbacks don't do it. And if they do it, they get torched when they do it, because switching sides of the field is very difficult to do. So I would just say to those who constantly say that, I feel like you should watch more football, people who don't know, analyze the game a little bit better. Josh Norman has been the best cornerback in football, shadowing or not.
As a Redskins fan, I've had the misfortune of watching all of the last two games. So I've seen his play, I've seen Breeland's play, and let me just briefly talk about Breeland. I am on record as being one of those guys who is absolutely convinced that Bashard Breeland is going to be one of the best corners in the league soon, or I was. I'm at a point now I'm a little concerned about his mental state. I'm glad, actually, that they pulled him out of the game at points this past week. I don't want to say necessarily he shouldn't be starting next week, but I definitely think that he needs to get a little time to get his head back together. So I think mentally he ain't where he was. Anyway, the thing that I've been most excited about with Josh Norman, and you'll see guys talk about it on Twitter that watch the games, is that even away from the play, he's still getting involved. He forced a fumble. It was either this game, I think it was this game, one of the fumbles that Elliott had, he forced, and he came across the field to do it. He, like you mentioned in the first game, he knocked out a ball that would have been that probably should have been a fumble.
Definitely should have been a fumble. Yeah.
Live, I thought it was definitely an incomplete pass. Going back and watching replay, I think if they had called it a fumble on the field, it would have stayed. I don't think there was enough evidence either way. So, I couldn't be mad at it. But anyway, anytime he was close enough to get to the ball, he made a play. And anytime the ball was live long enough for him to get to the ball, he made a play. So I've been really excited about his play. Would you like to see him, shadow guys, play against top receiver more, however you want to label it? Of course. The cat's getting paid $18 million this year. I'd love to see him completely blanket Antonio Brown, but a lot of people would, and a lot of people can't. But the reality is, if you actually look at his play, what he's doing, part of the reason they're targeting Breeland, not just because of the receivers that he's going up against, because the other guy ain't getting nowhere close to open. So the reality is, whether you like the way he's doing it or not, Josh Norman's earning his money. He's absolutely earning his money. I would say that he's made a difference in the way our defense plays, but we're on two. So whatever difference he made, it ain't enough. We got a lot of question marks right now. I'm not going to get into why the Redskins suck. But the reality is, I really liked what Josh Norman has done. I didn't watch enough Panthers games last year to know if he's playing the best football of his career, and he's only played 2 games for us. But I like what I've seen. I'm encouraged by it. And more than anything, I would love to see everyone have the same attitude that he does. So to me, shadowing, not shadowing, just playing and run, if he don't get to knock down one pass the whole season, he's neutralized half the field. And that's what cornerback is. I'm not a big person that believes you got to have a huge stat line as a defender. People want to look at passes defense for a stat of how well your cornerback's doing or interceptions. If I got a corner that has 3 passes defense the whole season because ain't nobody throw at him, he had a damn good season. And so you can't really just look at the stats that he put up and try to decide how well he's played. So I'm all for it. I kind of liked them shadowing, like having him shadow in the second half of the game. But the thing about that is it kind of forces us, to play more man coverage because it's harder to shadow and switch when you're running zone. But B, going along with that makes us more predictable on defense. And I think you kind of noticed the Dallas Cowboys moving up and down the field a little bit more easily on us in the second half. Part of that was due to the fact that our defensive line had some injuries. Part of that was due to the fact that they knew what we were going to do. So we had a lot of things that we had to work on. I think that in the future we probably will see him shadow more. Probably not as much as Patrick Peterson does it. And I also agree Patrick Peterson has been and may still be overrated. I know he's having a pretty good season so far from what Pro Football Focus has said. I still don't think he's the best out there. He can be in the conversation. I don't think he's the best. But I don't think you'll see it as much as him. But you'll definitely see Josh Norman getting out there and shadowing guys and probably doing a lot more just flying around that he really needs to. But however you want to look at it, he's going to earn his money. Fergus, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm gonna come at it from being an ex-cornerback. Specifically, I played that position. I think I agree with what Turner was saying earlier. Is that I think people don't understand the nuance of the position. Okay, one, Josh Norman is a cornerback, not a shutdown cornerback. He's played in systems that have helped him play to the level he's at. Now, you switch him in a different team, and you can't expect him to just turn into a different type of defensive back. Like you said, Alan, he makes plays. He's a good cornerback, but he's not I'm going to go man up the best receiver cornerback. Now, with that being said, I think people don't understand how hard it is to shut down one receiver. These offenses are complicated. They don't line up with just two receivers running outside wide routes. They put the receivers in slot. They put the receivers in motion. They put them in trips. It's very hard to just get one hand on that receiver, not to mention most teams have more than one good receiver. If you look at the Redskins versus the Steelers, there's plenty of evidence out there that they were avoiding Josh Norman and being successful. So what is he supposed to do about that? If he was to go and follow Antonio Brown, Sammy Coates would have killed them alive. Like, that's what would have happened. It would have been next man up. The thing that people don't understand is that one cornerback doesn't make a defense good.
Right.
Patrick Peterson is awesome, but Arizona has one of the best secondaries in the league. Even when everyone was so high on Richard Sherman in Seattle, a cornerback on the other side, Jeremy Lane, was doing his thing. Like, it takes an entire back 4 or 5 to actually shut down a passing attack. And what you see in the NFL right now is a lot of teams don't have that complete secondary, which means the offense schemes for the weakness. So Josh Norman is not the weakness. Look at Josh Norman and look at Jarrell Revis. How many highlights is Josh Norman on compared to Jarrell Revis right now? Jarrell Revis. I say Jarrell.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to throw the man under the bus or anything, but I'm just trying to.
Under the bus and you ran.
I did not mean to.
You ran the bus. No, it's okay. Like, he getting torched. The bus should be run over him. I like Revis, but
the thing about it is Revis is a little bit slower, not as quick as he used to be, and he's getting beat because his talent isn't living up to the skill set that he's had previously. So he's gonna have to adjust. But some of the best defensive backs that and I've actually seen it a lot in the league. You'll see a lot of cornerbacks moving into the safety position. Well, Darrelle Revis isn't that type of corner. Mm-hmm. He's more of a I need to play man to man and shut this guy down. Now, when his talent level is starting to go down, he's gonna have troubles, and that's what's happening. Josh Norman, that's not the case. He never was a shutdown corner. He was never I'm gonna jam a guy off the line and you're not gonna see him for the rest of the game. But what you do notice is that Josh Norman doesn't have open receivers. They don't throw his way because he doesn't give them that room because he plays good technique, solid cornerback. What's hard for people to understand is that if I'm a cornerback, I spent 5 years playing right cornerback. Not because I couldn't play on the left, but because I was more comfortable on the right. Because any route a receiver ran from the right side, my footwork was A1. Mm-hmm. But if I went to the left side, it was more like a B+. Now, that's not much of a difference, but it's a confidence thing. And if you play corner, you got to be one of the most confident, cocky son of a guns to touch that field. Because you know, if you shut down somebody all day and they make one catch, you the one they're going to talk about on come Monday or Tuesday after the game. So if he's not comfortable following a receiver, then you can't make him, because putting him in that position actually makes him a worse player, because he's not going to be as comfortable as he would be from his normal position. And people need to understand that these players are not they're not pieces of toys. You don't just plug and play them anywhere. A lot of them have built their reputation, made their money by being good at what they do. Josh Norman he's more than good. He's great at what he does. Why is everybody so worried about what he doesn't do? Ben Roethlisberger said before and after the game that they had a game plan and they executed it. If you watch the game, them suckers executed away from Josh Norman. Cowboys, I did not see the entire game, but they executed just as well avoiding him. But that's the thing. You got to realize that these offenses don't come into the game when there's a good cornerback. Like, we're just going to throw it anywhere. There's purpose.
Right.
There's purpose.
Yeah.
And their first look isn't going to be where Josh Norman is. That's called respect.
And
secondly, if this other guy on the other side is giving up all the room in the world, well, it's easy peasy. So it's not really on him. His defense, the Redskins defense wasn't good before he got there. It ain't going to be great just because he's there. And you need to realize it is what it is. Sorry, Redskins fans.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I mean, that's all I'm going to say on it, because I can talk all day about playing defensive back, but I mean, I think he's doing a great job. It's just a little misconception, like AJT said, about the casual fan not understanding the game.
Yeah, I read an article, and I'm not going to spend too much time trying to defend Breeland, like I said earlier, but I read an article the other day that talked about how, for whatever reason, this year Breeland has been playing off more than he has in the past. He's a lot better when he gets to press at guys at the line, be physical, use his athleticism. He's not really a playback, read and react kind of corner. And I don't know if that's because we've changed things, because Norman's there, or whatever the case may be. But we had the same problem last year with Chris Culver. And maybe it is because Culver had that same problem. Breeland got to play push coverage, and Culver played off, and he struggled. So I don't know if it's just one of those things where, we only want to have that one guy doing it at a time. And if so, that's something that our defensive coordinator's got to fix, because you want your guy playing whatever makes him best. And I know that to an extent, coordinators have their systems or whatever. But if you have a guy and you know what he can do, I'd rather you let him do it than struggle. And that's just me.